Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Hey, sorry it's a mess. I've been cleaning. I know it doesn't look like it, but I have. Um, so a project that uh, I have seen in the past. I don't know that I've seen them on YouTube. At least none of the people that I watch have made one of these. It's an item that my wife bought at, we'll call it a craft show, even though it's a permanent fixture. It details anyway. It is a, I don't know what to call it. It's a tea towel holder, although you could use it for a bath towel. It's a towel holder, let's put it that way. How about if I just show you what it is? Okay, I don't know what that chicken's problem is, but that's not what we're making. That, let me get this all, there we go. That's what we're making. It is a towel holder. There's a marble in there, okay? And that little towel in there, and it holds it. It's really kind of cool. It doesn't look too good here because this is oak with a, oh, it looks like a water-based poly on a pine cabinet. But as long as you pull it to the side or up, the towel comes out. And you go like that, and it stays. So let's go see what kind of scrap wood I have. I'll dig around the shop a little bit, and we'll figure out if we can make this thing. Now, as I've said, I have not seen these on YouTube, at least not anytime recently, and not any of the people that I watch. The ones that I have seen, there's one problem in building this, and that is that, I don't have an example of it here, the channel you make for the marble goes right off the end of the board. Well, you have to be able to keep that marble in place. And so the way that they solved it sort of made this clunky, okay? And it just made it look, I don't know, I didn't like the design of it. If you notice the one in there, the channel does not go through the top of the piece, which means that he had to have chiseled that out, okay? Which is fine. If you've got good chisels, better than my Harbor Freight ones, and you want to do that, that's awesome. You do you, okay? I don't have good chisels, and if you're doing this out of oak or some kind of hardwood, it's going to multiply the difficulty of that. Plus, if you're making these to sell at a craft show, you don't want to take the time to chisel all that out to get it right, and because you're going to lose money on that. Time is money when you're making this stuff for a craft show. I did a couple different examples. The nice thing about going every other week with a video is I have some time to experiment with stuff and clean up, okay? What I started out with, because again, I said, how can we do this quickly? This looks like a beaver chewed on this. This example was with a multi-tool. Okay. Didn't really like the result. And you still have some chiseling because you're working with a curved blade. I tried with the regular straight blade and it was a fiasco. Okay. So that's one example. Still have some chiseling, still have some cleaning, still some time. I went ahead and tried just chiseling from start to finish to see how long it would take. And this is pine, and this took a surprisingly long amount of time. And you can do that. If you're making these as gifts for somebody, and maybe you're only making 2 or 3 or maybe 4, that's fine. You can take the time, chisel them out. If you're just doing this as a hobby to kill time, you know, to keep yourself busy, that's awesome. That's awesome, first off. Go ahead and take the time to chisel them out, okay? If you're doing this for a craft show, again, you need to speed things up. So then I came up with the idea of the miter saw. And I cut the channel and then glued a piece over top of that, okay? You can see the line right here. Glued that piece on. That holds the marble in place because you're also going to be cutting this out, okay? So you need something up there. Now, I know, end grain to end grain, ooh, that's not good, it's not going to last, yada, yada, yada. Well, yeah, it will, because this does nothing structural. It's just there to keep the marble in place. And there's a piece of double-sided tape, which we're going to talk about later. I don't like that idea either. A piece of double-sided tape on the back that sticks this to the cabinet. So end grain to end grain, in this case, isn't going to really be a problem, okay? You know, besides, All right there. I'm pretty sure that's not going to go anywhere. So working with that premise of cutting it on the miter saw and then putting a piece back on, the problem with this one was I did not take the time to match up grain or anything like that. I just cut a chunk off of something, stuck it on there. Proof of concept is what I was going for here. So the proof of concept works, but can we make it look nicer? Okay. I don't have any oak milled up, which is unusual for me. It's up there. I didn't check to see if I had any milled. But I do have some pine that or not pine, I have some cherry that I think is milled up already. So let's see what we have there. Okay, so what I found is this seemingly innocent piece of cherry that is milled, I have milled, I should say, on 1, 2, 3 sides. This side I didn't finish joining or anything like that. Apparently the project I used this on didn't call for it. That doesn't matter. This is 3.5 wide. I would say that you want to be in that 3 to 3.5 area. You know, you don't want it to take up the entire cabinet when you stick it up there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut about maybe 1.5 or 2 inches off of this. Let's see. I'm going to go 1.5 inches. I'm just going to lop 1.5 inches off the top of this. I'll be right back. So now, when we put this back together, we will have a pretty close grain match. I've only taken a 1/16 to 1/8 of the curve blade thickness. Okay, so and just looking at that, yeah, that's going to match up pretty well. So this, we're just going to set off to the side. Now for the fun. Now, like I said, the marbles I have are 9/16, so I have to set a depth stop on the saw. I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm actually going to go 5/8. Okay, call me crazy, but that's what I'm going to do. So let me get that all set up, and we'll go over there. Okay, so here's my setup. I've marked the depth that I want on this line. Okay, I have set the depth stop so that it's at least that deep or a smidgen. Okay, industry term, smidgen more. More is okay, less is not. Okay. What I then did is found out where that depth is, because as I said, I want that depth to be back here. And I just set up I tried different pieces of wood until it got me out to where the depth of that cut is at the end. Okay, for me, it's this piece that looks like it's, I don't know, 1.5 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. Essentially what that does is that gets me to the halfway point of the blade, okay, which is what we're looking for. The halfway point would be its deepest cut. Drew a center line, which in my case was 1.75 inches. And because of math, I went 5/8 thickness. Okay, that's going to give me an extra 1/16 unless I mess up, odds are. But that's okay, because if it's a little bit thicker, that's okay. It's not going to matter. A little bit wider, I should say. So now I just have to cut this out. Now, my board is, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me back you out a little bit. My board comes all the way to the end of the whatever this piece is called. Okay, so I can actually hold it back here and keep my hands completely away from the blade, and I can feel pretty safe about it. I would recommend starting with a longer piece of wood and then cutting it down as you need it. If not, you could probably do this on the table saw. It would take a little bit of fiddling to do, but you could do it. So what I'm going to do is start with my 2 outside cuts, one there, and then I'm just going to hog out the center. A little extra tip for you. I have a tendency, this is a sliding miter saw, I have a tendency to pull out when I start to cut. So I've gone ahead and locked that also so that this can't move, because I don't need that mistake on top of everything else. You can see here, that's how much bite is going into this board. I don't have to be concerned about it cutting in half and flying into a million pieces. So you guys are in the way. Let me back y'all up a little bit. And then we'll just kind of, I'll show you one cut and then I'll go from there. And I'm not going to turn the dust collection on right now because it's really loud and I don't want to blast you guys out. I'm going to line that up to that. Looks fairly straight. Going to hang on to this board. It is tight against this board, which is tight against this. And that's it. Okay, so that didn't take any time at all. Got a nice little groove. Now, if you thought you were going to get away with this with absolutely zero chiseling, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Because you're going to have little grooves in there. The blade on the miter saw is a combination blade, which gives you the crisscross, which was a hip hop group out of the 90s, I think. I don't know, crisscross. Am I right? I didn't listen to hip hop in the 90s. Now all we have to do is just kind of clean these grooves out, which isn't going to take much. In fact, I'm just fooling around and I'm almost done. Huh. Could you leave the grooves in? Yeah, maybe, but why? Okay. For one thing, down here, it's going to affect the height of the marble, and that's the important thing. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. Okay. So just for the sake of movement, yeah, this way. Sounds like Cracker Jacks, huh? They still make Cracker Jacks? Can you still get them? And more importantly, have the prizes gotten any better? I can't imagine that the prizes got any better. So what we're going to do, I need some kind of a stop. Get in there. Oh, clearly that's good. All right, we're just going to take any random piece and lay that on there and make sure that that marble is not hitting that board. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and then we'll get to the next part. Coffee. It's still morning for another 36 minutes. This is my Pittsburgh Penguins coffee cup. I've had this for, mercy, 13 years. My son bought this for me. It says Pastor Fred on the back. It's a cool cup. I take very good care of that because I don't think I'm ever going to get enough. Anyway, let's move on with the project. Shut up. Stop talking. Get to building. Okay. Sorry. All right. Got my groove cut. I sanded, I chiseled out lightly the saw marks and then hit it with an 80 grit. This chunk of wood just happens to fit in there really nice. Wrapped a piece of sandpaper around it and away I went. Hit it with an 80 and then went back with a 120 because this is cherry. This is bougie, right? So let's make it, let's make it nice, is what I'm trying to say. This is the piece that I cut off originally. And we want this grain to be pretty close to matching. And I got to tell you, it's just not bad. So I will glue this on, and then I'll show you how am I going to clamp that. I can cut it down now. Things I haven't worked out. I was too worried about chiseling the channel. Okay. Make sure your grain is set up in the right direction. This looks pretty good. And then you're just going to glue these two together. Now, I could glue this part here and stick it, but I don't want glue to get in the channel, and I don't want to be able to see glue. You're not going to see it anyway, but I don't want to mess. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So just using Titebond 2 because it's what I got that's not ruined. Little dab there, a little bit there. And again, we're not We're not building a skyscraper, okay? So strength isn't necessarily a big issue. Wiping the glue off my hands is. We're just gonna doop. All right, and I'll bring you in and I can show you what I'm talking about here with the grain. So hopefully that shows up, but you can see, where's my finger at? We kind of have a grain match here, at least really close, and that's what we're looking for. And again, you'll see why later. Now you may think, great, that's in glue, I'm done now, I can't do anything, but you're wrong. Sorry, didn't mean to get excited there. There are other things we can do, because we have to make a top for this too. Okay, it's a two-piece unit, or in my case, a three-piece unit that's going to look like two-piece unit. We need to cut a top, and so I'm just going to make it the same size as this one. What a mess. Somebody clean up around here. I can't show you because basically it's going to sit on top of there. But the problem is that marble's not going to come down to where it needs to come down to with this, the way this is. So what I need to do is, much like on the prototype, I'm very new Yankee workshop here today. On the prototype, that's what that's going to look like. It's going to be cut out, okay? That's going to be that. And the marble, that'll allow the marble to drop down to, so it can get the towel, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so here's the setup, and that's a weird camera angle, sorry. I actually forgot, this is a homemade fence that I made, obviously, because I said homemade. And it'll work, okay? I am just to that line. This is what's going to be the inside. The problem is I put this big honking blade on here and you can't cut curves, and we want this to be elegant. We want it to be bougie, okay? So I have to figure out a way to get that curve. But for right now, I don't want to lose a finger. So we're going to use this. And we're going to cut to this line because I know that's where the end of my channel is. Stuck on something there. Okay. I love when microphones die in the middle of a build and you just go, oh, crap, how long has that been on? Anyway, so we have to make, I want it to be curved, just bougie, right? So I have a washer. I don't know what size this washer is. It's a washer. It's round. That's what we're looking for. And I'm just going to line that up right there. Where'd my... Like that. Conceivably, it's going to be the same on both sides, but just in case... Okay, line. I need to cut this now, okay? Can't do it on that bandsaw because it's got big honking blade on it. So, surprise, this is going back to the Bradford days, okay? This is the first bandsaw I had. It is also, guess what? Harbor Freight Machinery, but it has a 1/2-inch blade on it too. So I have to change the blade. Through the miracle that is Amazon shopping, I have that blade. So let me get this changed, and then I can get this curve cut out. Okay. So well, let me see. I'm already bleeding, and I don't even know why. So it's a good project. Let me get this changed, and then we'll get that cut out. So now all I have to do is cut this out. It's times like this that I realize that there really needs to be a light right here. This is a 1/4-inch blade. I forget the tooth count. Doesn't really matter. I stopped using this saw when I put the 1/2-inch on it because it was making a horrible, horrible noise. And I was trying to use it to resaw, which isn't really good. So now it's back to, this is going to be my curving saw, and that'll be big saw. Okay, kind of got that cut out. I am going to go ahead and find something round and sand that out. But, you know, a bandsaw that you're not afraid of probably would work better. And you don't necessarily have to curve that. I'm just bougie, right? Want to be bougie. So I'm going to clean this up, and we'll see how the glue on that's doing. It hasn't actually been that long. I might have to go eat lunch. Okay, I was trying to carve this out with a chisel and everything like that. And I have round chisels, actually, that the wifey poo made me buy and said, you can do it. I'm never going to use them. But I pulled them out, and I was right. I'm probably never going to use them. But I forgot I had this bad boy. Spindles. Sure, that'll be fine. There's a... Oh, maybe that's what this washer goes to. Anyway. It just so happens to be the size I need for that curve. So, and if you don't have one of these, get one. No, I'm just kidding. You can get a dowel rod or something and wrap sandpaper around it and do it that way. Since I have this and it's easier and I'm lazy, it's not working. It is working. I'm gonna have to look at that switch. Huh. Okay. Did the old marble test and put that piece on there, and it drops down. The marble, you can't see it, but the marble drops down and it rolls back in. Now, I want to make mine an oval. I don't like square and blocky. Okay. I have spent about the past 40 minutes, but oh, why not try that? Oh, anyway, trying to find something that would give me an arch the correct size. Tried tape, no. Tried a bunch of other. Actually, as it turned out, the throat plate from the table saw is pretty close to the right size. So I pulled this guy back out again. Might as well. It's got a brand new blade, right? And you're gonna oval both of these, but oval this one first, okay, the one with the channel in it, because it's solid, and then transfer that to this piece because you want to cut this flat, right? So once you have your oval, you can transfer it to this and then cut that out, this out safely. Any of that make any sense? It didn't even make sense to me. All right. Ooh. So this is just a rough shape. It is going to have to be sanded. But now I can put that on here. You still have two flat sides. That'll help you, right? And then get out of there. And we're just going to mark that. And then I can cut this one out flat, and here's the thing, it's still going to need sanded. Here's the thing, it's still going to need sanded, but you can do that after it's glued up, and then it'll come out perfectly right. Okay, so it's rough cut out. It still looks yucky. It's not quite as oval as I'd like it to be. Maybe once it's glued together, we can address that on the sander. But now is when Now is when you're going to glue this together. Maybe, if you have any sanding to do to the channel side, now is the time to do it. Because obviously, once this is glued into place, you ain't getting in there. Same with that. Okay. Now I've already sanded this piece, but I've got pencil lines and all kinds of silly stuff on here that might show up. So we're just gonna takes care of that. Now, when you glue this up, don't forget to put the marble in. You ain't gonna get it in once it's glued together. Today we'll be going with a green marble, which goes great with cherry. It really doesn't matter. And again, I'm going to glue this. I'm going to try and stay away from this inside channel, so if it squeezes out, it's all on the outside where I can get to it. Golly. was way too much glue. Okay, now I had 1,000 clamps here before. What I'm going to do to get this as straight as possible, stop it, is I'm going to set it up on its side, because the sides are still the same. I haven't touched them. Okay, and then I can clamp this together. Okay, now I am going to let this set up and probably dry overnight. And then, because I want it to be good and bonded when I set this on the sander, I'm going to use the same sander as I did earlier, different attachment. If you have those, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you can probably do it with a random orbit sander, an ROS. It's just going to take a little bit longer. And especially for bandsaw marks, because they're horrible to get out. So we're going to let that set. I'm going to go in and eat some lunch. I'm late. Folks, you don't want to be late for lunch, okay? And I am. So I'm going to pack it in for today, and then I'll be back out either later today or tomorrow. And we'll see if we can get this thing finished up. Okay, so after the sanding and the routing and then the sanding again, and then the sanding again, even though I sanded these inside bits, go ahead and just kind of run around that outside anyway, because you don't want the towel getting stuck. That'd be embarrassing, right? Let's talk about some things I didn't do that I should have. Mistakes. Okay, I screwed up. Happens. Finishing this thing, okay, yeah, we could finish it as it is, but technically you want finish on the inside of this also, like in this groove. And yeah, you could, maybe do that. I don't know, you get a brush in there and slop it around. The easier way, I don't know where, here's the other half of this. So this was the old prototyper. What I would do is just run some tape across this area up here, because that's where it's going to glue together. Okay. And on this particular one, it comes down a little bit, but just run some tape across this and go ahead and finish everything on the inside here and everything here, and then you can still glue it together. Okay. I messed up on that. I forgot to do that. I was actually on the phone with my wife before I came out, and I said, no, I messed up a couple things. I'm probably not going to keep it, but I'm kind of happy with it. I like the way it came out. So, and as far as the line where I cut and put it back together, I'm going to hold that in and zoom you in. I mean, it's almost completely unnoticeable. In fact, on this side, I don't even know where it is on this side. There's a little bit of a line there. You smear some glue on there and hit it with some sawdust, that line goes away. Now, the one in my kitchen that you saw has a lighthouse on the front of it. You can put anything on the front of these, or you can put nothing on these. That was not laser burned in. I took a closer look at it. It's a stencil and some black paint. That's all it is. What I would recommend is put one coat of your finish on, then put the stencil on, then cover that up with another coat of finish. Okay, or do 2 coats of finish and put the whichever. But I think it would seal in if you did that. What a bummer! I wasn't going to keep this, and now I want to. There's some mistakes on it. Hang on. Climbing, climbing. Huh. Warm gloss polyurethane. There, area is prepped. How are you supposed to use it? Golly. Home run. I'm gonna put a coat on. I'm gonna put a coat on the back, just because there has to be some type of an adhesive here. I wanted to talk to you about that. The one that's hanging up in my kitchen has just standard double side tape. I hate that idea, and here's why. I live in a church parsonage. It's not my house. That thing is fixed to my counter now. When I take that off, I know I'm going to take finish off of that cabinet. Okay. We live in 2025. Why not get a 3M command strip or something like that? You know, that way you can take it back off without ruining everything. Okay. I hope you guys are okay with the every 2 weeks, because in that 2 weeks, I was able to actually get the prototype done, you know, 3 of them actually, and some other stuff around the shop, although it doesn't look like it, that needed to get done. I just didn't have time to do it. So I thought those clicked together and made a nice little, maybe. Let's, sure. One of the things is I ran the Facebook Marketplace find about an hour and a half away to get some things. I'm just going to say dust collection improvement. That'll be a video down the road. I'm not ready to do it yet. But yeah, made some improvements. All right, here we go. Okay. I'm so bad. I love the small polyurethane. No. I've never actually used spray polyurethane before. Where I come from, we just get a brush and use it that way. All right. I'm going to let that sit and dry, and then I'll take the fancy shot for the thumbnail, unless it comes out horrible, and I'll just use the one that's on my cabinet. But hey, once you get these things going and you get a rhythm going, it takes no time at all to make these. Use the miter saw, get the groove cut, clean that up. I would say the hardest thing for me was figuring out the depth. That was probably it. Once you get the cutting the slot off of the top piece, this piece here, which once I got a bandsaw blade for my smaller bandsaw, that wasn't that much of a problem either. Oh, urethane, love it. I'm thinking it wouldn't take you very long to crank these things out pretty quickly. And again, my wife paid, I'm just going to say, in Western Pennsylvania, okay, give you an idea of the demographic there. Not in town in Pittsburgh, but in Western Pennsylvania, she paid $15 for one of these, okay? This is a chunk of scrap cherry that I just happened to have milled up on the shelf waiting for something to do with it, okay? You can make this out of oak, pine, whatever. You got pallet wood? Make it out of pallet wood. Call it rustic. Call it reclaimed. Folks love that. Reclaimed. It's reclaimed wood. And check in your area. I see no reason. I'm sticking my hand in polyurethane. I see no reason at all why you can't easily get $15 a piece out of these, even with nothing on the front of it. Okay. the house that I used to live in had cherry cabinets. This matches perfectly. Boop, done. So, you know, give it a shot. Hope this video helps. Something different. Like I said, I've not seen one on YouTube, at least none of the people that I watch, which is kind of hard to believe because I thought by now Matthew Peach would have done one, or Who's the Voss would have done one, because this is their kind of deal. So get out and make one. See how it does in your area. But in the meantime, I appreciate you sticking around through the video, coming and hanging out with me. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.